Today we're going to look at two-way tables. So a two-way table is a table that displays two or more sets of data in rows and in columns. So these are some examples about having a dog or not having a dog, and having a cat and not having a cat. So you're able to see who owns a dog and a cat, who owns a dog and no cat, who owns a cat and no dog, or who has no cats and no dogs. And then you're able to see the totals for each of those. The same as at the bottom for chores and allowance. So some things we need to think about is frequency is the amount of times that something appears in your data. The relative frequency is the number of data written as a percentage. So we're going to have to look at percentages as well. So I'm going to walk through a couple of these with you. So how do we make a two-way table? Well, we've got to start with getting our information. Here's all the information that we have about chores and allowance. We have Abby, John, Julie, Mike, Deb, Chris, Gus, and Lynn. We don't actually have their names on our table though. We have chores or no chores, and allowance and no allowance. So let's start by figuring out who does chores and gets an allowance. 1, 2, 3. So you were looking for where there was a yes in both the chores and allowance rows. So now let's look for allowance and no chores. There's 1. So just 1. So now we're going to do chores, but we get no allowance. There's 1. There's 2. And now who does no chores and gets no allowance? There's 1, Mike, and 2, Lynn. So now when we see these, we're going to add up how many kids do chores. 3, 4, 5. So my total for chores is 5. My total with no chores is 3. My total kids that get allowance is 4, and no allowance is 4. So what we should see is when I add up my kids down here with allowance, 4 and 4 should give me 8. The same as 5 and 3 will give me 8. Did I have 8 kids? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we just completed that first two-way table together. What it's telling me, 3 kids do chores and get an allowance. 1 kid gets an allowance and doesn't do chores. 2 kids do chores and don't get allowance, and 2 kids get no chores or an allowance. So let's go on and figure out the next one. Sometimes you're going to be given two-way tables that look like this. Some of the numbers are filled in, but not all of them are there. It makes it look a little tricky. However, it's not that bad to fill in. So just start. So right here, I have 2 numbers, so I'm just going to go ahead and fill in this one. 9 plus 11 is 20. 4 plus 1 is 5. 20 plus 5 is 25, plus 25 is 50. So we know that that bottom row is correct. Now, for this picnic column, I have 10 are male. I don't know how many females, but there's 25 total. So you're going to do 25 minus the 10 and figure out that there are 15 females that like to picnic. Now we have to find the total amount of males. So we're going to say 9 plus 4 plus 10, and that gives me 23. My total females, we have 11 plus 1 plus 15, gives me 27. Now to double check your math, 23 plus 27, does it add up to 50? Yes. So your table is correct and complete. So going to the next one, number 6. Our data is up here at the top about cupcakes and about cake. My table is completely blank. So we have to figure out what information goes where. Well, I know that I'm talking about cupcakes and I am talking about cake. Well, I have 2 different flavors. I have vanilla and I have chocolate. So my top row, I'm just going to say is vanilla. And then I have chocolate on the bottom row. And I'll extend this so y'all can read it. So from there, Am I able to go in and fill out what I know? Absolutely. How many cupcakes are vanilla? 1, 2. How many cupcakes are chocolate? Just 1. So how many cupcakes do I have total? 1, 2, 3. Now on my cake, how many pieces of cake are vanilla? Just the 1. How many pieces of cake are chocolate? Just 2. And I have 3 pieces of cake. Well, 3 plus 3 is 6. Is that what I see up here at the top? Yes. So then we can add up each row. 2 plus 1, I have 3 items that are vanilla, and I have 3 items that are chocolate. From here, I would be able to go in and say, I have 2 vanilla cupcakes. I have 1 chocolate cupcake, 1 vanilla piece of cake, and 2 chocolate pieces of cake. So what we're going to do from here is the table is filled out. However, sometimes you would be asked, well, what percent of the total amount of are vanilla cupcakes? So to figure out the percentages, you'll do 2 divided by 6. 2 divided by 6 is 33% of everything at this store is a vanilla cupcake. We'll talk more about the finding percents in a little bit, but just know if it's out of the total amount, you divide by this box down at the bottom. If it's asking you just out of the cupcakes how many are vanilla, you do 2 out of just your cupcake total. So let's look at this one together. So we want a two-way table for shirts and pants that are purple and green. So I have shirts and I have pants, and I know they could be purple or they could be green. Now I'm not going to go through and fill out this table with you. I'm going to let you work through this table on your own. This table as well, I'm going to help you figure out how to get it started. I know I have pink and I have blue because I can see the 2 colors on the chart. But then I have dogs, cats, and fish. Well, if you notice, I only have 2 categories on the left side, and I have 3 categories across the top. So I'm going to have to put cats, dogs, and fish across the top because that's where I have space for 3. And then I'm going to have pink and I'm going to have blue. So now that we filled in those categories together, I want you to go ahead and take the opportunity to fill in the rest of the table. All right, so this one, it says, in a survey on the population of visiting France and Holland, a sample of 100 Danish adults were asked for their holiday destinations last summer. In June, 6 people went to France, 18 went to Holland, and 5 went elsewhere. In July, 10 people went to France, 19 went to Holland, and 2 went elsewhere. In August, 15 people went to France, 15 people went to Holland, and 10 went elsewhere. So the first thing we need to do is figure out what information goes in this table. So in June, I had a sentence about June. It says 6 people went to France. So I'll put my 6. 18 went to Holland, 5 went elsewhere. I have a sentence on July. It says in July, 10 people went to France, 19 went to Holland, and 2 went elsewhere. And then August, 15 people went to France, 15 people went to Holland, and 10 went other places. So to fill out the rest of my table, I just have to add up my numbers. So 6 plus 10 plus 15. In those 3 months, 31 people visited France. Holland is 18 plus 19 plus 15. 52 people visited Holland. And 17 people went elsewhere. So now, how many total people are there? In our problem, it says it should be 100, so let's just add and double check. 31 plus 52 plus 17 is 100. Now let's see how many people traveled in June. You'll say 6 plus 18 plus 5. 29 people traveled in June. 10 plus 19 plus 2. 31 people traveled in July. 15 plus 15 plus 10. 40 people traveled in August. So what happens next? Well, what we have to look at now are these questions down here. It says, how many people went on a holiday in June? When it says a holiday, it wants to know how many people were traveling in June. So for B, we would say 29 people. C says, what percentage of those surveyed holidayed in Holland? Well, how many people holidayed in Holland is 52. People went to Holland out of 100 total people. So to figure this out, we would say 52 divided by 100 would give you 0.52. 0.52 is 52%. And then D, it says a person is selected at random. What is the probability that they went on a holiday in August to France? Well, in August to France, there's 15. So that would be 15 people out of, if they're just selected at random, how many were on holiday? 100. So we would have 15 divided by 100, is 0.15%, or 0.15, which is 15%. So when we go to number 10, you're going to fill out this table based on the information you have. You'll have to add and subtract to filling all your missing holes. And then down here at the bottom, you're going to do similar to what we just did on the last slide. You're going to answer these questions and you'll just list them B, C, and D.